argument yet today. Hold your breath. It's about to start. I love these days.
News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And a big welcome and good morning to all of our listeners on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy, quick take. Yeah. What did you think of Alex Keloff?
I like to say that, again, I'm an unaffiliated, but I like the cut of his jib. We'll go that way. I like what he has to say. I'm not certain if I'm in the district, do I eventually vote for him? I'd have to compare and contrast based on the messaging that Jeff Hurd has. But I think that he has done an admirable way to walk that line of being a Democrat, but not being a super lib socialist. I don't think that what he was saying would fly in some of the urban corridors. If he's down deep and dirty into the Denver metro, he's not even close to being liberal enough for those voters. But if he focuses on those economic issues inside of CD3, I think he can gain traction. I'm not saying that he can upset Jeff Hurd, but I think if he focuses on those, if he comes with a message of what has Jeff Hurd done in the previous couple of years to make your family's budget and lives better, I think he's got some traction. Again, not saying it's going to win. What'd you hear? Yeah, tell me.
Well, Jeff Hurd still has never come on our show, and who knows? But I don't think he's going on anybody's shows these days. And that's a clear point of frustration. Alex, nice guy, he's a Democrat. He's a Democrat, right? And talks around things and doesn't really have a plan. I would love to see giant manufacturing operations taking place in the San Luis Valley. I mean, let's hum that thing up. Let's get big manufacturing coming into Grand Junction, jobs, opportunity. Man, it's just kind of like, I don't like tariffs, but I don't really have a plan to deal with it. Look, nice guy, but you're getting a Democrat. You're going to get a Democrat, and I think if you vote for him in CD3 and they get control, it's going to be pound the impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump 24/7, all that stuff. So,
see, I think that's the argument against him.
You got to keep it in Republican hands, guys.
I think that's the argument against him. That not if Jeff Hurd goes at him, I don't think you fight on the local issues. You fight on the idea that you're adding another person to the team nationally, and that because he is a junior member, he's going to have very little influence on what the national Dems can do. I think that's a good argument. When you talked about the manufacturing, I would be curious to see if Jeff Hurd has a plan to bring large-scale manufacturing to the district.
Jeffrey, call the Jeff and Bill Show. We'd love to hear from you. You do serve the people. All right, now it's time for the news.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. It's Thursday, 31 and sunny in Denver, 30 in the Springs, expecting highs in the low 60s today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
They said, "Sir, you're going to be speaking at 7." They said, "Really? Oh, that's wonderful." I said, "Where?" "National Prayer Breakfast." I said, "I'll be there. I'm afraid not to be. I need all the help I can get."
All right, 47 at the 74th National Prayer Breakfast this morning in the swamp. DJT says he doesn't know how a person of faith can vote for a Democrat. I get that one. He used much of his speech to highlight accomplishments from his first year back in office. He said his administration is having, quote, tremendous success. And he said that Christians are under attack around the world.
The other day in Nigeria because they were killing Christians. You know about that. They were killing Christians. So you can't do that. When Christians come under attack, they know they're going to be attacked violently and viciously by President Trump. I know it's not a nice thing to say, but that's the way it is. So we're also delighted.
Yep, and he went on. I agree with that. Trump covered a wide range of topics from proposed voter ID legislation to energy. It's day 5 in the search for the mother of Today host Savannah Guthrie in southern Arizona. Nancy Guthrie was reported missing from her Tucson home on Sunday, and authorities believe she may have been abducted. Buc-ee's has withdrawn its plans to build a large travel center in Palmer Lake after more than a year of public controversy. Palmer Lake resident Karen Smith says she and others will continue fighting against any future proposals for the travel center in the Tri-Lakes area.
We are still in danger. We're definitely still in danger because now we understand they're going to be going through the county or trying to go through the county, and that still impacts Palmer Lake.
The company pulled its annexation request Wednesday, ending plans for a 74,000 square foot development near I-25 with the cleanest bathrooms in the world. The proposal led to resignations of town officials and multiple legal challenges. City of Fountain officials quickly responded to Buc-ee's and the withdrawal, saying they are open to having discussions about locations and bring those bathrooms down here. The parents of the teen who shot 2 students and then himself at Evergreen High School in September will not face charges. Many in Evergreen say someone should still be held responsible.
If the parents knew and didn't do anything about it, they're wrong.
Michael Breen has a friend who had kids in the school and almost got shot. Investigators found no DNA link between the parents and the firearm, which was owned by the shooter's grandparent. Some parents in the community believe criminal charges should be brought against the suspect's mom and dad. The case is closed unless new evidence emerges. 2 state lawmakers are introducing a bill to criminalize abortion in South Dakota. It would apply existing homicide and wrongful death laws to unborn children. State Representative Tony Randolph and State Senator John Carley described the bill as an equal protection measure since it would treat unborn children the same as those who are already born. It's the first bill of its kind that removes language that exempts women from criminal prosecution for abortions. The bill is heading to the House Health and Human Services Committee on Thursday. The latest Epstein files release include Frenchie Emmanuel Macron. And Candace Owens says thank you for backing up what she has been reporting.
Just want to give a shout out to Emmanuel Macron for being in the Epstein files. You know how the elites get down. Anyways, it's very funny. And then this text chain that is happening, they are discussing Emmanuel Macron's boyfriend. It is Epstein. And I believe in other chats, he's talking with Steve Bannon. And this says, along with some other tidbits, I was shown a photo of Macron's boyfriend. Hypocrisy. There are more emails referencing the fact that Emmanuel Macron is gay. And I think the biggest clue was that he married a dude. But apparently now people are willing to accept that Emmanuel Macron is not a straight Catholic man.
She reported it first in the United States for the most part. Avs take a bite out of the Sharks 4-2 last night. They are 37-9-9 in the NBA. The Knicks over the Nuggets at the Garden in double OT, 134-127. Jokic, he was horrible from three-point range, just trying to get back in the flow. It was the second of a back-to-back. Ice cold from three-point land, but they still had a chance to win it. But the Knicks, 134-127 over the Nuggets once again. Both teams, the Patriots and the Seahawks, preparing for Super Bowl 60. Wednesday was a big practice, another big one for both teams today. 30 in the Springs, 31 in Denver. More of the Jeff and Bill Show coming up on News Talk 710 KNUS and now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer in Colorado Springs, all along the Front Range. This is the Jeff and Bill Show. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Is it spring or February? Going to be hard to tell because through Monday, spring-like conditions will be found here along the Front Range as a massive high-pressure ridge will be over the Intermountain West through that period. This will lead to unseasonably warm, dry days and fair, cool nights with little or no significant threat of moisture whatsoever, likely through Monday. Temperatures in Denver and Colorado Springs will easily go through the upper 50s to as warm as the mid-60s, and nighttime temperatures that'll be mostly in the 30s. Changing weather, though, is on tap next week. The pattern is going to shift, finally. High pressure will dominate through Monday, while increasingly cloudy skies will start to develop in the region Tuesday, and by Wednesday through Friday of next week, temperatures statewide will trend colder. Mountain snow is going to be returning late Monday night, Tuesday into Wednesday, and maybe some Front Range snow chances around Wednesday of next week. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is Jeff and Bill. Headline in the Hill. Bill, Elon Musk says SAVE Act requiring ID to vote must be done or democracy is dead.
Yeah, sure. Okay. How many other predictions have been wrong about?
Tesla CEO and former White House advisor Elon Musk on Wednesday weighed
ketamine
in
enthusiast
on the legislation that would require ID and proof of citizenship to register to vote, warning that democracy could be at risk if the legislation isn't enacted. Let's go to the phone lines. Lewis in Aurora. Good morning, Lewis. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, brother. Good morning. Hey, getting on a plane is nationalized already with an ID. Why not voting? But my concern, why didn't you follow up with him, with Kellogg, on Griswold interfering with the election? That's worse than Tina Peters, because Griswold is statewide, and she tried to get Trump off the ballot with no proof of anything.
That's a fair critique, Lewis.
I'm not sure it's fair to say with no proof of anything. It was not Griswold that brought the court case. It was a court case that was brought here by both Republicans and Democrats, saying that because of January 6th and some other things, that he should not be constitutionally allowed to run again. Griswold did defend it in state, but then I believe where she overstepped her boundaries is when she joined the plaintiffs when it was kicked up to the appellate and the Supremes. That to me was it made the office political. But I'm not certain, Lewis, that I agree with you that she was
office political.
Well, no,
she's been political since
she
the
has
moment
been.
she
Yeah, she has
stepped
been.
in.
But I'm saying that makes that a political, and so that oversteps the boundaries of what she was doing prior to. I don't think she was making the issue political. But Lewis, the thing is, how do you say that joining that lawsuit is greater election interference than what Tina Peters did? Help me understand that.
Well, because that was statewide. Tina Peters was only in the county. It wasn't statewide.
So it's just the scale of it?
Statewide.
So it's the scale that matters. Because,
Well,
Griswold
yeah.
didn't start that, because she didn't start the suit. She did join it once it got kicked up and went through the Colorado Supreme Court. But after that, she joined it.
She was the biggest mouth on it.
Well, I disagree that. I mean, but even then, I mean, Tina Peters was a big mouth about stolen elections. I mean, she showed up at the Mike Lindell, the pillow guy, his election symposium, and was a featured
sure
guest
what
there.
Alex said about 2024 election interference was correct either.
Yeah, but even then, I would let it.
I mean,
yeah,
that
but
was
even
2020, and I'm not sure it was direct election interference.
Well, the issue seems to be about which and when she was. It's basically, from my understanding, a question of since she was doing these actions post 2020 election, it then fouls up the system for the next cycle. And so that would be 2022, 2024. In theory, I think that's where it comes from. But,
on this point,
you know,
I'll
either
ask
way.
you, Lewis, and I'll ask you, Bill Thorpe. Do you want our elections nationalized?
Well, not nationalized, not the election, but voter ID, yes. What's the difference?
Well, there is a difference as to who runs the election, right? So the federal government can absolutely have say in how federal elections are managed. They have said this. They have already done it. You have to be 18 years old. You can't be prevented from voting if you're a woman. You can't be prevented from voting if you're black. The federal government absolutely speaks in to how federal elections are guided, but who runs them is done locally. Would you want the federal government? Do you see it as a form of nationalizing it if you just say, hey, it's required that photo ID be presented? Because in Colorado, that's not required right now.
Well, I don't want the government nationalizing the election. That's not good. But to require, like you said, you can't stop a minority like myself, Puerto Rican, that you can't stop me from voting. And the thing is, to have ID, again, we got ID nationalized to get on a plane. I'm going to be flying out at the end of this month. I got to show my ID. I can't go to the airport and say, "Excuse me, you're discriminating, asking me for an ID. Let me on the plane."
Bill, what's
to
wrong
me?
with requiring ID to vote?
Don't we already? You're required to show ID. You are. You're required to prove who you are and you're registered to vote. That would be what I don't understand.
So right now, the first time you register to vote with the federal government, all it is an affirmation. You just have to affirm that you are a citizen voting.
Where do you do that? Do you do that in a parking lot? Where do you do it?
When you register the first time to vote.
Where?
So,
Where do you do it in Colorado?
Oftentimes with your driver's license in Colorado.
In a government building where they've already said who you are.
Right.
Okay.
And but they're also giving
they're doing a driver's
licenses
license
to illegals.
And they're
you're giving
those
driver's
licenses are different.
to illegals,
But they're different
then
licenses.
all you're requiring is an affirmation to vote.
But they're different licenses, and in order to get the driver's license, you have to provide the proof of citizenship.
It's not the only place where voter registration takes place. You can fill out a form. You can just fill out a form on the street.
And then what happens?
Well, there's another
They give you
thing
a ballot?
that I'm concerned about. Let's get paper ballots. Get away from the mail-in ballots. That's
Lewis,
when we
hang on a second.
began
But
to lose.
paper ballots, Lewis, we have mail-in ballots and they're paper. What's your solution?
No. Just to go in and fill out a paper ballot. Okay.
Why does that, Lewis? Explain to me how. Lewis, explain to me how that's a safety precaution.
Bill, listen to me. We started losing this state when mail-in ballots were instituted. Okay, because we were pretty much a red state, but when they started instituting this mail-in ballot, that's when things started changing in our state.
Lewis, correlation is not causation. And just because two things happen at a similar time doesn't mean one caused the other.
But, Bill, you can look at not just one. Many states that don't require voter ID tend to heavily support Democrats.
Here's the thing. I disagree with the idea of not requiring voter ID. You have to have ID, and you have to prove who you are, and you're registering to vote.
Not in Colorado.
Yeah, you do.
No,
You're
you
at the
don't.
DMV.
You can register to vote in Colorado with an utility bill.
I see you guys.
No, thanks, Lewis. Appreciate it. No, you can't register to vote with utility bill. You can cast a provisional ballot with utility bill, from my understanding.
No, I think that's factually wrong. I think you can register to vote in Colorado with just a utility bill. you don't have to have voter ID in order to do so.
I think you need at least another secondary form of ID on that one. I don't think you're allowed just with a bill to walk in because there's nothing proving that outside of that name is there. I know that you can walk in on a polling place and do it with a bill, but you cast a provisional ballot and then they verify who you are. It doesn't count as voter registration from my understanding, but I could be wrong.
So what's wrong with requiring this nationally?
Requiring what? See, the thing is
voter ID. Because that's what the SAVE Act does.
We already have it. That's the stupid loop that
why,
we have in
why
this.
not just vote for it
well,
if
here's
we
the
already have it?
Here's the idea. This is a solution that is looking for a problem. This is something that does not have a problem. The idea that our elections are unsecure is a lie that has been perpetrated by one particular political party over and over again, until now it is accepted as their sort of lore. But nothing has shown widespread voter fraud. The Heritage Foundation, the authors of Project 2025, found 50 individual cases over 20 years. 50. Millions of votes were cast. And the Heritage Foundation can find 50.
I don't know how you would know. How would you find out if there was fraud?
What do you mean?
That's the point. So
no, I don't understand.
If you had illegal immigrants, for instance, registering to vote in Colorado, and it was being done fraudulently, how would you know that was taking place?
How are the illegal immigrants registering to vote?
They fill out a form.
Yeah, they fill out a form, and then those are run against other government lists as far as whether or not they're eligible to vote. And again, if you're walking into the DMV and you're trying to get a government ID in order to prove that you're going to be a citizen, then the proof of citizenship is therein. Because again, this is a voter registration when you're doing a driver's license, which is a government ID. So there is your government ID voter registration. That is functionally exactly what it is. And this assumption that then we don't have it anywhere else is just silly. What I'm hearing is we just really want people to show up on the day and present an ID. You know, that thing that teenagers have been spoofing for decades in order to get into bars and liquor stores. That very solid thing that nobody's ever been able to crack or duplicate or fake.
I want to understand you here. This is something that doesn't happen, but we don't know. Because
we know.
Because it hasn't been.
No, we've searched. We've done. The Heritage Foundation did a long 20-year study. They looked at 20 years. They found 50 cases, and we have people that are charged with it regularly.
Are you familiar with how the Heritage Foundation did its research?
Not at the point I didn't familiarize myself
so we
with it
don't
this
know.
morning.
Hang on. We don't know if they looked at voter rolls. We don't know if multiple people have been registered to vote in the House.
I'm pretty sure the authors of Project 2025 are going to be fairly thorough on looking for the illegal voters.
Well,
I'm just guessing.
It's an assumption.
But I will go.
It's an assumption.
Yes, but I think it is a safe assumption given where they are politically. I think it's a very safe assumption to operate off of.
When we try to say, all right, let's require voter ID, like an actual government ID to vote, which you don't need in Colorado. Here's the actual language. The following documents are acceptable forms of identification. A copy of a current utility bill. That's all. It doesn't say it needs to be added to anything else. A copy of a current utility bill will allow you to vote. It doesn't need to be matched to anything else. It's not a provisional ballot. None of that stuff. This is the law. This is the Colorado.gov law. Okay? So, and then when we say, well, let's do voter ID, you go, well, that can be faked. So why not just require it? What is? I don't get the hang up on this. This like visceral reaction that somehow if we require this, which it isn't right now, just an affirmation, and in Colorado a copy of a current utility bill is enough to vote, then why the visceral pushback on this?
Well, I think what you're talking about on the bills, it's when you show up at a polling place. Yet again, you can't show up with a copy of a utility bill and say that's my ID to register to vote that way, to get a government ID. And again, I am pretty certain that if you show up with a utility bill at polling places, unless the law is changed, you cast a provisional ballot that then is double checked later on. And part of that double check is the signature verification. That's part of it in order to provide the ID that you may not have on your person in order to say that who you are when you register to vote. That's it. And at the polling places, we have mostly volunteers. And now they are going to function as the bouncers like they do at the clubs.
Nothing in here that says it's provisional. There's absolutely nothing right now on the Colorado Secretary of State's website that says it's provisional.
But the people I've talked to with the process and procedures say that when you do show up like that, you cast a provisional ballot. I will have to double check that, but last time I checked the rules, that's what happened.
Why not? What's the problem requiring this? I don't get it. I don't get the visceral anger, frustration. Well, we already do this, which we do in part, but not entirely. And then when we say, well, let's do it, well, people can just fake it. And why not just do it?
In Colorado, what changes? If this passes tomorrow, what changes in Colorado other than other government processes and procedures that are going to cost more money? What changes? What functionally changes in Colorado if this passes tomorrow?
It will functionally take out the notion that you can vote with just a current utility bill. I think it will require that be removed, which it should be. Why not?
Does it say that cover provisional ballots? Because that would be the issue. Because I don't believe that you can walk into a polling place in Colorado and register to vote same day with only a utility bill. All my understanding is you cast a provisional ballot.
Any form of identification listed above that shows your address must show a Colorado address to qualify as an acceptable form of identification, and that acceptable form of identification is a copy of a current utility bill. To me, this jumping around and ducking and diving and, well, kids can make a fake ID and we already do this. Why not just make it clear? Why not just make it really clear? You can't get on an airplane without a photo ID. End of story. That's it. You can't vote in this country without a photo. But, well, it's a provisional ballot utility bill and all this stuff. It's just ducking and diving. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand why being clear about this is such a problem for Democrats. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Let's talk the gun room. Folks, there are some businesses in Colorado that aren't just stores, they're institutions. The gun room in Lakewood is one of them. They've been serving Denver since 1982, and when you step inside, you immediately know this isn't a big box operation. It's real, it's personable. Wood counters, knowledgeable people, a shop built on experience, responsibility, and respect for the Second Amendment. I love everything about this store. The gun room buys, sells, and consigns everything from antique firearms to modern tactical and hunting rifles. They even help families navigate gun collections after losing a loved one, something that requires trust and integrity. Wayne's the owner, and I promise he will take great care of you. With over 1,000 firearms in stock, inventory changing every day, this is the place to shop, especially with new restrictive laws coming down the road. Support a local, family-owned Colorado business. Support freedom. Visit denvergunroom.com, denvergunroom.com, or call 303-237-1300, 303-237-1300, denvergunroom.com. denvergunroom.com. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver.
And now proudly on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
We are all along the Front Range. This is the Jeff and Bill Show. Elon Musk saying the SAVE Act requiring ID to vote must be done or democracy is dead. Text messages all over here. Jason in Denver saying you must be registered to vote in Colorado to vote. That's correct. If you're not registered, showing up in person with a utility bill won't help. In order to register, an ID is necessary. But here's the thing, guys. Here's where everyone's saying you got to have ID. You got to have ID. Well, here's what is an acceptable form of ID. A copy of a current utility bill. It doesn't ever say here on the Secretary of State's website that this needs to be matched to a photo ID or a government-issued ID. It's not mentioned as a provisional ballot. It is a form of acceptable identification in order to vote in Colorado.
But you still cast a provisional ballot if you show up at a polling
place. Does not say that.
Does
not say that.
No, but the processes and the procedures dictate that. And what I mean by that is, if you show up at a polling place with a utility bill, they do not functionally have the system to register you to vote. They cannot cross-check whether or not you're in the system anywhere else. There's no way to double-check. So they will take your information, and they will hand you a provisional ballot. And then once it passes, then the vote can be counted. But there's no way for them to verify or register you on that day. The system doesn't exist. So walking in there with the utility bill.
You don't need to show up that day. You can register to vote in Colorado with a utility bill.
But what I'm telling you is at the polling places, they have no way to verify registration. So they will give you a provisional ballot.
No.
Yes.
I think you are fundamentally wrong on this. You can register to vote to get a ballot in the mail with a utility bill. This isn't just same day, show up in the poll. It's not provisional. It's not checked against anything else.
Yes, it is.
You can vote with a ballot sent to you simply by registering to vote in Colorado with a utility bill. And if I'm wrong on this, and you have to have some form of photo ID in some other capacity, then just pass the SAVE Act. Because doesn't the SAVE Act just do this?
But isn't it duplicative? Why pass the law if it's already does?
So what?
Well,
what?
How many times?
Why isn't this 100%? Why doesn't everybody vote and go, we just passed a law that essentially talked about how great the sunshine is?
How many extra laws and procedures and things do we have that are in the Colorado law system? The issue is this is a solution that is searching for a problem. If it already exists, you don't need to pass the bill. Don't waste your time doing it.
That is not what Chuck Schumer said.
I don't care what Chuck says.
Really?
Chuck's a moron. Yes,
well,
I don't.
He's the head of the Senate Democrats. And the reason why this didn't
I'm not a
get
Democrat.
a vote.
I give a crap.
Why did
give a crap what he says?
Why did Chuck Schumer come out against this bill? Was it because it was duplicative?
I have no idea.
Nope. Because it was Jim Crow era legislation.
Yeah, that's hyperbolic and stupid.
Requiring ID out there, which apparently already exists, is a form of Jim Crow. So we're either a Jim Crow country requiring ID, or we don't require ID to vote, an actual government-issued identification, which is why this bill is needed.
The thing is, he's being hyperbolic and dumb, but that's Chuck Schumer. I've got no time for him. It's dumb. That is a dumb statement, and he shouldn't have made it. The thing is, we haven't found large-scale voter fraud. Now, if this does happen, does that mean MAGA is going to shut up about the voter fraud and stolen elections? Does this solve all the problems? Or are we going to still hear when your favorite candidate loses, you'll call up and say, it's all the stolen elections. It's Hugo Chavez or some company in Germany, a computer company, or the Italians taking control of satellites, all of which were floated post-2020 election as the way they stole the votes. All those were floated. So we heard all those crazies. None of those came true. And even the Heritage Foundation can't find any large-scale voter fraud and nothing on the scale that would change an election. However, the nice part is, as you talk about states being a little tiny, like laboratory of democracy, we do have recent history on this and how well it went. Kansas did this, and it was a failure. It was a complete failure. It ended up...
Kansas required ID and it was a failure?
Yep, it was a complete failure.
Because Georgia did it and they had record black turnout for voting.
No, it was a failure because it was found in Georgia. They passed it in 2011. More than 31,000 U.S. citizens in Kansas were denied the ability to vote. It's about 12% of those seeking to register in Kansas were denied the ability.
Why?
Because of the ID requirements. They couldn't fulfill some of the ID requirements in order to register to vote. One of them was a guy in Kansas who had to go and register, and what his birth certificate said wasn't deemed acceptable. The copy of his birth certificate that he had wasn't acceptable. He was denied the ability to register to vote in Kansas. He's a U.S. resident and had an 11-year-old son at the time. He's not an immigrant. It didn't come in recently.
I
was
still
born
don't
here.
understand the problem. What was wrong with his birth certificate?
The birth certificate that he showed up with at the DMV or where he's registering to vote was deemed unacceptable. I don't know the reason or what it was, but they
randomly. I mean,
not randomly.
There's clearly a problem with it.
Yeah,
right?
he said there was a problem with it. Yet he's a U.S. citizen.
Well, I'm glad they got some clarity on this. What is so wrong with this? I mean, it's like
31,000 citizens denying the right to vote.
How dare you make me prove I'm a citizen?
But
I should be able to shape the direction of this country without having to prove it.
But these are 31,000 people that are citizens that were denied register. The Kansas Secretary of State came out against it.
Is a birth certificate example, and what happened in Georgia when they required ID in Georgia, they ran around Chuck Schumer saying, "Oh, black people aren't going to be able to vote because they apparently can't figure out the ID stuff," which is just like the most racist stuff you can say. It always comes from the Democrats, and what happened in 2022 was a record turnout of black people that were able to vote and participate in elections. So all of this scaremongering that happens, it's too complicated. Black people won't be able to figure it out. Jim Crow era type laws doesn't bear out, secure our elections, because you do have partisan hacks. Part of the problem all this is what Jenna Griswold does. Jenna Griswold she should be a referee in all this. It should be just by the facts, just play the game straight. And what you get is somebody that takes talking points from Planned Parenthood, sues the president, loses it in a 9-0 election, can't even keep the passwords private, gets all that. She's terrible at what she does. She's a partisan hack. Nobody trusts the elections because of her leadership. And then when you try to bring in some form of common sense, like, hey, just make sure you have a photo ID issued by the government so that we can prove you're a citizen when you vote, everybody freaks out on the Democrat side. They're so partisan.
None of those problems that you outlined with Griswold would have been fixed with a voter ID. You have a whole list of glitches, and the voter ID wouldn't change a single one of them. This is, again, this is a solution that is in search of a problem.
I disagree with that. She sent out a mailer to 30,000 illegal immigrants encouraging them to vote, right? Now you could go, well, there's some guardrails to make sure that they don't, but a photo ID would sure as heck be one that would prevent that. Plus, she was sued by Judicial Watch to clean up the voter rolls, which she fought. Okay? So, yes, a little bit of guidance in the SAVE Act to require photo ID would secure our elections in Colorado.
It wouldn't change a darn thing in Colorado. It is a problem that is searching for a solution. We've tried it. Arizona had problems with it. Kansas had tremendous problems with it. It doesn't work the way that we think it works. We all envision everybody showing up at the polling place and having to show your picture ID. It's not how it works. We vote by mail here. So outside of that original registration, nothing. Wouldn't change a single thing inside of Colorado.
Look at this. Look at the defensiveness at requiring photo ID.
Not defensiveness.
Yes,
it's the idea that you're out there searching
defensive.
you're out there on a snipe hunt. You see snipe out there in the bushes, and you're out there searching for the snipe. I just want proof that the snipe exists. Then I'll be happy to get all on board your laws.
Proof of fraud before you will take common sense steps to prevent fraud. That seems like something that's going to set our country up for failure.
No, not at all. Proof of action, proof of a crime actually exists before I go out there searching for snipe. I'm not going on a snipe hunt with you when I haven't seen any proof the snipe exists.
This is common sense to me, and the reaction from Democrats just proves how unsecure our elections are, insecure our elections are, and how it is absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. Jenna Griswold sent 30,000 mailers out to illegal immigrants. And then I just proved to you that an acceptable form of ID to vote in Colorado is a utility bill.
That ID,
and there's nothing here that requires a provisional ballot.
If
Bill.
you show, hang on, if you show up on the day, regardless of what you have in your hand, if you're not on that voter registration roll, they hand you a provisional ballot.
I'm telling you, you can vote with a ballot mailed to you.
I'm telling you the process and procedure.
Simply a utility bill. This isn't about having to show up the day of. You can register to vote with a utility bill. All right. Feel free to join the conversation. Would love to have you jump in. 303-696-1971 is the phone line. The text message is 720-819-5115. Good night. Where do I start on these text messages? There are so many here. 720-819-5115. Breadman once said we're all along the Front Range. How about northern Colorado? Breadman, hopefully someday soon.
Yes,
Herb, the conservative Jew. Don't forget that an illegal alien in Colorado can get a government-issued ID and a driver's license. Therefore, you can use your government-issued ID to vote when you're an illegal and cast an illegal ballot. What is your response to that, Bill?
I'm not certain on that one. I would have to see what the government ID says, because I know that the state IDs are different for people that aren't citizens and people that are. So there are some things contained therein. I don't know the provisions inside the government ID. I would be surprised if a government ID does not have any differences based on citizenship. That's the idea, is how's it coded, how's it colored, what's going on. But this also does speak to the issue, Herb, that you're expecting those individuals that are volunteers at polling places or somewhere else that are taking that registration would have all of that knowledge and ability to discern that. That is the problem. Part of the problem that I see in the SAVE Act is the idea that we look at this as a silver bullet, that somehow if we require the ID, then all of this imaginary fraud goes away. And I'm saying imaginary because even the Heritage Foundation can't find the fraud. So we're out there snipe hunting, which is just weird.
Text messages, super hot. When America was great, there was no photo ID. A utility bill worked just fine. And there was no widespread instances of people voting as someone else. Political machines like Chicago and Texas used other means to cheat, not voter ID scams. But 8933, part of the problem is we've had 10, if not 20 million illegal immigrants come into the country recently. And that's just part of the reality that you got to deal with. All right, phone line's hot. We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710, KNUS in Denver.
And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking the SAVE Act. We're talking voter ID. And somebody texted in a screenshot of voter registration online. And so here's the important thing to note. Okay, so if you go to the Secretary of State's website, all right, and you want to register to vote online, okay, if you want to register to vote online, Colorado driver's license, ID number, or social security number, last 4 digits required, okay? But this is important. Scroll down. If you're unable to register online, complete the paper voter registration form. Okay, so click on that. There's a box there on the Colorado voter registration form. This is not same-day registration. This is not showing up. This is just registering to vote, where you can select under identification, I do not have a Colorado driver's license or ID or social security card, okay? You check that. If you check that box, you need to provide a form of identification. What is an acceptable form of identification? Simply a copy of a current utility bill is enough to get you to register to vote. They're not going to check it against your social security numbers or anything like that, because you were able to check a box in the voter registration, the mail-in voter registration form that says, I do not have a Colorado driver's license, ID card, or social security card. So you don't need to list your license. You don't need to list your social security number. You simply have to have a copy of a utility bill that shows that you live in Colorado. Now, what the SAVE Act is saying is that in order to vote, you need to prove that you're a U.S. citizen, and proof of that U.S. citizenship is an identification that complies with the Real ID Act of 2005 and indicates U.S. citizenship. Bottom line, a form of a driver's license or photo ID. That's what it's required. What I don't understand is the pushback from progressives that either this is Jim Crow or we already do this. We don't. Let's go to Ben and Morrison. Good morning, Ben. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, Jeff, you didn't do the hard work and actually look into the actual measures you got on the website, which is the dumbed down version. But if you go and get into the law, Billy's 100% right. What it does do is it puts your box, if with the utility bill, it puts it into a provisional ballot selection. Then what they do post that is they'll check it against tax returns, any passport applications, driver's licenses that are associated with that address with the same name. So they do put it in a provisional ballot selection. If they can't find anything, what they do with provisional ballot is then they send out a letter to that resident saying, hey, we received it. Would you like, we had some questions that this may be invalid. Now you need to show up in person. So Billy's 100% right. You can't just go through willy-nilly with the utility bill and do it without any other aspect of double checking. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, Ben, I think you're wrong. You can register to vote with
Jeff,
a utility bill. I'm looking at the form.
You are not looking at the law. You are reading the internet. You did the lazy version.
No, I'm looking at the Secretary of State's website. So, Ben, answer me this. Answer me this, Ben. Would you support the SAVE Act? Ben, would you support the SAVE Act?
Jeff, there's a difference between looking at the website and actually going into the law and looking at what provisional ballot means.
So, Ben, let's say I'm wrong. You can't just register with a utility bill. You support the SAVE Act, then?
No, not really, because it disenfranchises more voters than it saves from anything, because it's an imaginary issue. Voter fraud does not happen on any large scale. It's a fake problem.
And I don't understand. You just told me we have this great process to confirm that you are a U.S. citizen voting, and I'm saying the SAVE Act makes that required with photo ID, and then you tell me it disenfranchises people. Help me understand how you can hold both those at the exact same time.
Easy. Because if you're an 18-year-old who doesn't have a car, you may not have a driver's license. If you're somebody that's poor that doesn't have a car, you may not have a photo ID or a driver's license. That's not that hard to wrap around. And guess what? There's more people in that camp than there are people who are committing voter fraud. Voter fraud is non-existent. The Heritage Foundation, which you love, has found 1,500 cases since 1988 in every single federal election combined. That's basically nothing, and that's across the entire nation, Jeff. I'm sorry.
And all you're doing, right, Ben, is just proving the Republicans' point on all this. Simply put, just make it clear. Get a voter ID. Well, people can't do that. By the way, all of our systems work already, all that stuff. Then just make it clear. It's this knee-jerk reaction against voter ID just proves that you, in my mind, you got something to hide, Ben. And this right now, you can register to vote simply with a utility bill. There's nothing on the Secretary of State's website that indicates what you're saying whatsoever. So you can say, I'm dumbing it down, I'm not following up. That's the Secretary of State's website, Ben. I'm sorry, but I think you're wrong.
Though. Ben's right. They do verify it afterwards. It is the process and procedure.
Not according to this. Send me the law. Send me the law. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We'll be right back.